My parents and in-laws gaslit me into leaving my husband during a rough patch, but I exposed their hidden feud, reclaimed my marriage, and cut them off. Hey. So, I, 27 female, have been married to my husband, Marcus, 28 male, for 3 years. I have known him for a much longer time. We used to be childhood friends because our families were friends, and we used to spend a lot of time together whenever his family and mine would meet at parties or whatever. We grew apart in high school, but then ended up in the same business school, grew closer, which eventually led to a relationship and eventually marriage. But in the last year, we sort of hit a rough patch because he got a job at one of the top firms in the state. It was a great position with great pay, but I was struggling to keep up. Even after I quit my job, I could not find another one and was in between jobs for a couple of months because I wanted something that could put me at par with my husband. I know it sounds horrible, but I've always been extremely competitive, and I could not understand why I was failing while my husband was doing great. I would not say that I was jealous of Marcus, because I really was not, but I definitely felt a little left behind whenever he talked about work and how great he was doing. I was happy for him, and he was extremely supportive of me, but despite that, I was feeling put out, and I just wanted better opportunities for myself. I started getting depressed, and even though I hid it really well from Marcus, I could not hide it from my parents. One day, I told them about how I was feeling, which turned out to be a huge mistake, because they pounced on that opportunity to try and break me and Marcus apart. They told me that Marcus was only going to focus on his work now and would eventually forget about me. It did not help that Marcus was already working long hours and would barely come back home or go out and just do stuff with me. They told me that eventually Marcus was going to push me into the role of a housewife, and the process had already started because I was doing most of the chores at home while he worked. At that time, I did not think there was anything unfair about it, because he was bringing home a ton of money, so it only seemed fair that I did the chores at home. It was not until my parents highlighted it that I started thinking that maybe Marcus was trying to push me into a stay-at-home wife role, which was something I did not want, because I had always been very clear about my career being a priority for me. My parents had pretty much drilled it into my head from a very young age that if I was not working, then I was not worthy. I am not even making it up, that is exactly what they used to tell me when I was younger, so I grew up thinking that being a working woman was the most important role that I could take up, so much so that I did not even care about being a good wife or a good friend. I just wanted to beat everyone out for the best job, best position, and best salary, including my husband. Once I told my parents about me feeling weird and like a failure just because my husband was doing better at work than I was, they jumped onto the bandwagon and started gaslighting me into believing that Marcus was trying to put me down on purpose and that I needed to leave him. Not only them, but for some reason, even my in-laws started giving me advice about the same and said that since Marcus had grown up watching his mother be a housewife, he probably wanted the same thing from me. This is why he was slowly but cleverly manipulating me into staying at home while he worked, and soon enough our roles in the household would be cemented, so I needed to get out before that happened. Maybe I would not have bought it if it was just my own parents saying this, but once my in-laws started insisting that I go away from Marcus and leave him, I began to think that there was actually some substance in whatever they were saying. I do not know what got into me, but one day I decided to pack up my bags and leave without even telling Marcus what was bothering me. I was already feeling depressed due to the lack of a job, and I just could not take the pressure anymore, so I left without a word to anyone, not even my parents. Nobody knew where I was. I deactivated all my social media and even changed my number because I did not want to be found. I used my savings to rent a house in the suburbs and live there for almost 2 weeks, or maybe 3, where I did not do anything except just lie around and cry on my own. I was so depressed that I did not even have the energy to make food for myself, and would only stick to 1 meal a day, which is why I lost a ton of weight and started looking really sickly and weird. I would barely go out of the house unless it was for groceries, and even then I would cover my face to make sure nobody recognized me. After a while, I even started considering filing for divorce. That is how bad things started to look for me in my own head. But somehow, Marcus did find me with the help of the police after 2 weeks and took me back home. I did not have any furniture in the house that I had been living in, apart from a bed to sleep on, so I had not even seen myself for 2 weeks. When I finally came back home, I realized how much weight I had lost, and that I was actually looking like a crazy person because I had not brushed my hair or my teeth and had not showered for days. Despite all of that, the first thing that Marcus did when he found me was give me a huge hug and start crying because he was so relieved and loved me and could not stand the thought of losing me. I felt terribly guilty for leaving him over something so stupid and realized how crazy I had been acting. I am pretty sure it was the lack of a job that drove me to such an extent and made me take that step, that along with all the gaslighting by my parents and in-laws, and also my own inadequacies. I started therapy soon after, but never told Marcus about the real reason that I had left. I just told him that I left without a word because I was depressed and did not want to be a burden on him, which was partly true, but I did not elaborate on it. Fast forward to now, and I am doing a lot better than I was before. I have a stable job, and even though it is not as good as my husband's, I am happy with it, because I know that he is not my competition, and whatever we do, we are in it together. Therapy has helped me make sense of the crazy things that used to go on in my brain and made me mellow down. I have also still kept in touch with my parents and my in-laws, despite whatever rubbish they fed me all that while ago when I was going through a horrible phase in my own head, and they talked me into leaving my husband. They did not bring up any of what they told me before I disappeared and pretended to be surprised by my actions once I returned. They told me that they had been worried sick about me. I did not know why they were trying to break us up, but I never could bring myself to fully trust them again, especially during therapy when I figured out that they did not want the best for me. They just wanted some drama, and that is what they got. So, I kept in touch with them, but I also kept my distance, and things were really weird between all of us. But Marcus never brought it up because he just probably figured that they were being weird around me because of my sudden disappearance 2 months ago, and I was being weird around them for the same reason. He was pretty much the glue holding the family together, so I did not talk to him about a lot of things until recently. It has been a while since I came back, and like I said, I have been doing a lot better now. So 1 week ago, I finally thought that it was about time that I told my husband the truth about why I left, because he deserved to know, and I could not keep up the lies anymore, because it made me feel guilty. I told him everything about how I had been feeling when he was doing great at his job and I was struggling to even find one that could put me at par with him, and he seemed to understand where I was coming from. He even tried to comfort me. Then I told him about what my parents and his parents had to say about the situation back then, and that is when he started looking really mad. I told him about how they had been egging me on to leave him because apparently they believed that he was trying to force me into being a stay-at-home wife. I got scared, so I left without saying anything. I apologized for all of it and said that I really regretted my stupidity because now I knew that he was not trying to do any of it, and it was just a huge misunderstanding created partly by my own insecurities and partly by my parents and in-laws. He got very upset when I told him that and went to his phone immediately. For a second, I thought that he was mad at me, but then he called his parents. As soon as they picked up, he tore into them and gave them a piece of his mind for trying to break us up. He told them that he never wanted to speak to them again because of what they had been trying to do, and then hung up and blocked them. Then he turned to me and told me that he felt the same way about my parents, and he really did not want anything to do with either of them ever again. I asked him if he was mad at me, and thankfully he said that he was not. He could understand where I was coming from, because my parents had taught me to be incredibly competitive, and I could not stand the fact that somebody else was finally doing better than I was, which made me a little cuckoo. I had always been a perfectionist, and he understood and respected my mental struggle to come to terms with a lot of things, which made me act out in a way that I had never done before. He could forgive me for what I did, but he could not forgive his parents and my parents for what they tried to do, because while I was grappling with several issues in my own head, they did not have any excuse for what they did. They tried to gaslight me just so that we would separate and took advantage of my depressive episode so they could find it easier to break us up. He thought that it was really low and disgusting, which I agree with. They could have tried to make the situation better and talked me into sorting things out with Marcus, but instead, they went the other way and tried to ruin our marriage. I did not know why they would want to do such a thing, but Marcus told me that they did not need a reason. He believed that the only reason they went through all this trouble was because even though they had been friends since we were kids, our families did not really like each other. I think it might be true. He told me that he did not know about my parents, but whenever we would meet at social events and stuff as kids, his parents would start gossiping about mine as soon as they would enter the car. I guess mine waited until they were inside their room, so I never found out. Marcus spilled the beans on how he had always known that our families did not exactly get along, but they did not oppose our marriage either, because they knew that we would not listen to them anyway, and if they spoke up, then we would probably just ignore them, get married anyway, and then cut them off. So they decided to play the long game, put up a united front in trying to break us up, and then at the first chance they got, they talked me into leaving. Because I was in a very vulnerable position, I actually fell for it even more so because his own parents were also telling me to leave him, and that carried a lot more weight than just my own parents saying it. That was his theory, and it sounded like he knew what he was talking about, so I believed it and blocked our parents too. But yesterday, my parents reached out to me via email and told me to unblock them so they could talk to me. I decided to give them one last chance for closure, unblock them, and then call them so we could have one last discussion and then be done with this for good. I told them about what Marcus had said and said that I believed him, which is why I blocked them. They told me that they did not have any intention of messing things up for us and had only ever wanted the best for me. They said that after their discussion with my in-laws at the time, they had also found it weird that those two were trying to break us up. But for them, it was not the same since my parents were only looking out for their daughter. My mother even started crying and said that she had never expected me to even consider that they tried to break my marriage up because they only wanted the best for me. She said that she still loved and respected Marcus, but she did not think that it was right of him to accuse them of trying to break us up on purpose. My dad told me that he did not know what my in-laws' intentions were, but he could assure me that they did not share the same sentiments, and it was incredibly hurtful to think that their own daughter would believe that her parents were trying to actively hurt her and ruin her marriage. Both of them seemed pretty emotional and genuine, and after that phone call, I just do not know whom to believe. Of course, I do not think that my husband said anything on purpose to sabotage my relationship with my parents, but I just do not know if his theory was spot on or not. I do not understand if I should give my parents a second chance or if I should apologize to them because I blocked them without even giving them a chance to explain themselves. I have no idea what to do about anything, and I am just so confused. I feel like in a hole, but I have learned not to trust my feelings regarding these things because the last time that I did, I almost ended up ruining my marriage. Am I the asshole for cutting off my parents because my husband accused them of trying to sabotage our marriage on purpose? Update 1. So, I went through the comments, and I think everybody is of the same opinion as my husband. I also communicated with Marcus about what happened in my conversation with my parents. He also reiterated his own point and said that I should not fall for this because it is an act, and he knows it. Marcus broke it to me as gently as he could, but he did inform me that I should not trust my feelings right now because I am still going through a very weird phase mentally and have become a little too vulnerable. I fall for just about anything, and it is true. Ever since I spoke to my parents about my marriage troubles, I found myself believing almost anything that anybody says to me, and I do not think it is healthy, and definitely it is not good for me. This is the first time anybody has told me to be a little less trusting and optimistic about my relationship with other people, because not everybody wants the best for me, especially not my parents, who cannot seem to stand my in-laws. I did not know this, since it is basically just gossip about our families, and I do not really indulge in it. But Marcus recently told me something, and I guess their history goes a lot deeper than what I knew previously. Apparently, my father's brother was engaged to my mother-in-law's cousin, and they were about to get married, but my uncle cheated on her with his secretary, and they were caught by her 2 days before the wedding. The wedding had to be called off, and everything became a whole scandal, which led to a lot of problems between our families. But since it happened a long time ago, they could not exactly act like enemies when they were in public, so they never stopped me and Marcus from playing together as kids. Neither did they say anything when we were about to get married because they did not want to bring this up in public. But Marcus knew all about it. I did not, because I do not pay attention to gossip. I guess that is why I never figured out why they were so bent on ruining our marriage. Now that I know the truth, it is going to be a lot harder for them to manipulate me. I do not even understand why my parents went and told my in-laws about the problems I was having. I guess they felt like they could team up just to separate us, which is just disgusting, and I cannot imagine any sane person doing that and being okay with it. I spoke to them 1 week ago, and I have not talked to them ever since. I do not think I am going to, because after what I have learned, I am pretty sure that they were trying to sabotage our marriage on purpose. I mean, if they wanted to do that, then they should not have allowed us to get married in the first place. If they did not say anything back then they have no business interfering right now. I regret even talking to my parents about any of this, and I guess I should have just spoken to Marcus about our problems and kept it private. He has not been speaking to his parents ever since their last phone call because he knew the truth all along and was right about everything. He told me that he did not tell me about all the gossip because he always assumed I knew but was not comfortable addressing it, so we just never brought it up. I guess it makes sense in a way, because I really should have known all of this, But I never really considered that my parents were not the people that they presented themselves to be. They raised me to be incredibly competitive, independent, and self-sufficient, which are all good qualities, obviously. But it got to a point where I was incapable of thinking about anybody but myself. I do not think that is healthy. The reason I turned out like that was because my parents were like that, so I became exactly like them and did things without thinking about how it would affect the other people in my life. The time I ran away from home without telling my husband was something that my parents encouraged. It did not help that my in-laws were also against us, but I am out of that circle now. They can no longer manipulate me and make me do things that are going to be bad for me in the long run, like leaving my husband. Update 2. It has been a few days since the last update, and like I said, I have not been talking to my parents for a while now. I blocked them yet again after my conversation with Marcus, and also after reading the comments here, which made it very clear that they were trying to manipulate me. Side note, a lot of people have been blaming me for all of this and saying that I am stupid, which I might be, but I do not think that it is a kind thing to say to somebody who is undergoing intensive therapy because clearly I have a lot of issues to deal with, some of which I have not even mentioned here. I am not saying that I need to be worried, but I think it would do everybody a lot of good to just go easy on people if you do not know what they are going through. The only reason it was easy to manipulate me was because I was not in the best state of mind. Anyway, my parents visited me at my house today, or rather they tried to, but I was not at home. I was out with a couple of my friends and Marcus was the one at home, so that is who they ran into. Thankfully, he had the good sense not to bother me while I was out with my friends and only told me everything once I got back home. So, apparently, they were really ticked off, and as soon as they saw Marcus at the door, they put him on blast and called him a lot of horrible names. They accused him of trying to manipulate me and steal their daughter away, which I do not even think is a real thing, because I am already married to him, so he does not need to steal me. I am nobody's property. They do not own me, and neither does my husband, so there is no stealing happening. I think what they meant is that Marcus was trying to turn me against them, but he did not really have to try because they did the job themselves pretty well. They were the ones who first tried to manipulate me into leaving my husband and took advantage of me when I was in a very delicate state of mind. If anything, they were the ones to blame for the situation because they could not put aside their feud with my husband's family, even for my sake. Entertaining that animosity was more important to them than my marriage, so there is really no reason for me to feel bad about cutting them off, especially after what they said to my husband. They told him that they were full of regret that they did not make up lies about him just so that I would leave him and file for divorce, because that is what he deserved since his family was nothing but a bunch of cheaters and liars. Anyway, I mean, that is a bit rich coming from them since they are no better themselves, but it is fine because at least they showed their true colors now. I do not even have to pretend that I have empathy for my parents. I am just done with them, and I think they are the ones who are actually responsible for all the issues that I have. Update 3. It has been almost 1 month, and today I was notified by my parents' lawyer that they have removed me from their will, and now everything will be left to my cousins, but nothing to me. He told me that my parents wanted me to know that the only way to fix this was to get a divorce from my husband, to which I only have one thing to say: nice try, ha-ha. I cannot believe they think that I can be bought out like that, especially since. Looking back on this entire ordeal, I feel a whirlwind of emotions that it's hard to fully capture, but I'll try. At 27, married to Marcus, the man who'd been my childhood friend and true love, I thought we were unbreakable, but that rough patch last year shattered me in ways I never saw coming. The depression was overwhelming. Watching Marcus excel in his dream job while I struggled to find work left me feeling worthless, like a failure. My parents had raised me to believe a woman's value lies solely in her career success. If you're not working, you're not worthy. They'd drilled into me. So when I opened up to them about feeling inadequate and left behind, I hoped for comfort. Instead, they weaponized my pain, gaslighting me into thinking Marcus was deliberately sidelining me, pushing me toward a housewife role I despised. Worse, my in-laws piled on, claiming he wanted what his mother had, a stay-at-home wife. Hearing it from both families crushed me. I bought every word. One day, I snapped, packed my bags, and disappeared without a goodbye. For weeks, I hid in a barren rental, barely eating, barely functioning. I lost weight, stopped caring for myself, and sank into isolation, even contemplating divorce. How could I let their words destroy me like that? My deep-seated insecurities, fueled by years of competitive conditioning and their ruthless manipulation, nearly ended my marriage. When Marcus found me, his response broke my heart open. No anger, just tears and a desperate hug. He'd been terrified of losing me. That pure, unwavering love pulled me back from the edge. I started therapy, landed a fulfilling job, one I'm proud of, even if it's not better than his, and learned to view him as my partner, not rival. Confessing the full truth to him recently was terrifying, but healing. He forgave me instantly, understanding how my upbringing made me spiral. But he was furious at our parents for exploiting my vulnerability. He exposed their long-buried feud, an old family scandal where my uncle cheated on his relative, explaining why they'd faked friendship for years, only to sabotage us when I was weak. The betrayal stings deeply. These people who shaped me chose petty revenge over my happiness. Their later tactics, fake tears, surprise visits, hurling insults at Marcus, even disinheriting me unless I divorce him, only solidified it. It's heartbreaking to grieve the supportive parents I wished for, but liberating to see their true colors. Now, Marcus and I are stronger, our marriage reclaimed and thriving on honesty and teamwork. Cutting them off hurt, but it brought peace. Therapy has unpacked so much toxicity, helping me redefine my worth beyond achievements. I'm grateful, truly. This pain forced growth, saved our love, and taught me to protect my peace fiercely. To anyone facing manipulation or doubt, trust therapy, lean on real love, and choose yourself. You deserve authentic happiness.